Welcome to Sci-Fi Show. Don't forget to hit subscribe and join our growing sci-fi community. The drop pod hit atmosphere like a meteor, shaking her bones as G-forces pinned her against the restraints. Cadet Issa Chen gripped the harness straps, watching through the small porthole as the alien jungle world below expanded from a green-brown smear into a roiling ocean of canopy. The pod's retro-thrusters screamed, then the impact a bonjoring crunch that sent her forward against the straps, hard enough to leave bruises. The door blew open with a hydraulic hiss, flooding the cramped interior with humid air that tasted like copper and rotting fruit. She unbuckled, grabbed her survival pack, and stepped out into knee-high purple grass that rustled like whispers. The jungle loomed ahead, a wall of bioluminescent vines and trees with bark that seemed to breathe. Her unit was supposed to be here. 5 other cadets, scattered across this sector for the final phase of their training, but her comms crackled nothing but static, and the forest swallowed all sound except the distant screech of something that definitely wasn't friendly. She checked her rifle fully charged. Dan started moving toward the tree line. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that her 5 squad mates were already dead, their bodies cooling in shallow graves dug by clawed hands. What she didn't know was that the conclave of Hunters 20, of the galaxy's most lethal predators from 20 different species, had paid a fortune to be dropped on this world with her. They thought they were hunting a terrified academy student. They had no idea what humans became when you backed them into a corner. The first one came at dusk, when the bioluminescent flora began to pulse with pale blue light. Issa had found a defensible position in the exposed roots of a massive tree, its trunk wide enough to hide a shuttle. She was heating a ration pack when her motion sensor pinged something big, moving fast, 30 meters out. She killed the heat tab, shouldered her rifle, and melted into the shadows. The creature that emerged from the undergrowth stood 3 meters tall, built like a mantis crossed with a wolf, its exoskeleton gleaming obsidian under the twilight, forearms ending in scythe-like claws, compound eyes that reflected her hiding spot like mirrors. It wore a trophy belt strung with alien skulls and moved with the confidence of an apex predator that had never known fear. Issa controlled her breathing, counted its steps, waited until it turned its head to scan the clearing. Then she put 3 rounds through the thinnest part of its neck joint, where the exoskeleton segments met. The crack of her rifle shattered the silence. The creature's head snapped back, ichor spraying black against the glowing vines, and it collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. She was on it before the body stopped twitching, her combat knife out, working at the neck joint. The skull came free with a wet crack. She wiped it clean on the grass, stuffed it in her pack, and was gone before the blood stopped steaming. By the 3rd day, they started to understand something was wrong. The Vraxian hunter species, known for tracking prey across star systems, found the mantis thing's body drained of blood, its head missing, its weapon torn apart and scattered as a warning. The Vraxians sniffed the scene, its tendrils tasting the air for chemical signatures, and found traces of human sweat mixed with something else: rage, adrenaline, and absolute focus. It called the others on the encoded channel, its voice a series of clicks and whistles. The human female is combat-trained. Velixir is dead. Proceed with extreme caution. But caution was for prey, and they were hunters. The next 3 came as a pack to Korvath berserkers built like walking tanks, all muscle and chitin armor, flanking a Silthine ambusher whose camouflage skin could blend with any environment. They tracked her to a river crossing, where the water ran red from mineral deposits, and strange fish, with too many eyes, darted between the rocks. Issa watched them from her perch in the canopy, wrapped in a thermal blanket that masked her heat signature. She'd learned their patterns over 2 days of observation. The Korvaths led with brute force. The Silthines struck from behind. Classic pack tactics, predictable. She waited until they were mid-river, water up to their waists, weapons held high. Then she opened fire on the Silphine first headshots. 3 rounds sent a mass to crack its camouflage skin. It shrieked, thrashing, turning the water purple with its blood. The Korvaths roared and charged her position, but she'd already dropped from the tree, swinging down on a vine to land behind them. She planted her last 3 breaching charges on the riverbank supports of ancient root systems, then ran. The explosion brought half the cliff down on top of them, tons of rock and screaming alien vegetation burying them alive. She waited 20 minutes for the dust to settle, then went down with her knife. 3 more skulls for the bag. The conclave was fracturing. Half wanted to call it off, to evacuate before this human nightmare picked them all apart. But the leader, an ancient Ku-6 matriarch with 100 confirmed kills across 50 worlds, refused to accept defeat. She is one lone female. The matriarch hissed into the cums, her voice like grinding stone. We are the greatest hunters in the galaxy. We will take her together at the extraction point. All of us. No more stalking. We end this. But Issa had no intention of waiting for extraction. She'd hacked their communications on day 5, using a salvaged alien datapad spliced into their encrypted channel with a decryption algorithm she'd written during Academy downtime. She knew where they were. She knew their plan. And she knew that humans didn't wait to be hunted. They became the hunters. She hit them that night in their camp, a fortified position they'd established in a clearing ringed with sensors and automated turrets. She came in from above, dropping from the canopy on a rappel line, throwing homemade thermite grenades into their ammo stockpiles. The explosions lit up the jungle like a second sun, and in the chaos, she moved like a ghost, putting rounds into anything that moved, using their own weapons against them when her rifle ran dry. A Thorian blade dancer tried to duel her, its 4 arms spinning monomolecular swords in a pattern designed to intimidate and dismember. She shot out its knees, then stomped its head into the mud until the skull cracked. A Zinthari sniper in the trees managed to tag her shoulder, burning a furrow across her armor, but she traced the shot back and climbed to its nest. They fought in the branches, all knives and teeth and desperate fury, until she got her hands around its throat and squeezed, until something popped. By day 8, there were 6 left, including the matriarch, and they'd abandoned all pretense of honor. They mined the jungle paths, set deadfalls and acid traps, tried to burn her out with incendiary drones. But Issa had grown up on Earth's reclaimed wild zones, hunting to feed her family when the supply chains collapsed. She knew traps. She knew desperation. She turned their minds against them, rigged their own drones to follow their heat signatures back to the source. She took the next 2 in an old ruinsome ancient alien structure, half swallowed by the jungle where they'd tried to ambush her from multiple angles. She'd planted speakers playing recorded human speech, drew them into the open, then collapsed a wall with carefully placed charges. She dug their skulls out of the rubble with her bare hands, fingernails cracking, knuckles bleeding. The 4th tool-ass tried to surrender, dropping its weapon and raising its hands, but Issa put a round between its eyes anyway. This wasn't war. This was extermination. The last 3 made their stand at the extraction point, a flat plateau where a ship would come to collect the survivors in 2 days. The Ku-6 matriarch stood in the center, flanked by her final 2 hunters, a Dreadclaw heavy weapons specialist and a Nexian psionic who could flay minds with a thought. They'd set up a kill box, overlapping fields of fire, nowhere to hide. Come, human. The matriarch roared into the jungle. Face us with honor. Issa's voice came back over the stolen cums, cold and flat. You hunted me for sport. I hunt to survive. There's no honor here, only corpses. She hit them with everything she had, left smoke grenades to blind the sensors, flashbangs to disorient the psionic. Then she came in low and fast, with a commandeered plasma caster. The Dreadclaw's heavy armor meant nothing when she targeted the joints, melting through servo systems until it toppled like a felled tree. The Nexian tried to invade her mind, and for a moment Issa felt its presence cold, ancient, convinced of its superiority. She thought about her dead squadmates, about being hunted like an animal, and she pushed back with every ounce of human stubbornness, every refusal to die quietly that her species had ever mustered. The Nexian's head exploded from psychic feedback, unable to comprehend prey that fought back inside its own domain. That left the matriarch. They circled each other in the clearing, both bleeding, both exhausted. The Ku-6 was massive, her exoskeleton scarred from 1,000 battles, her claws stained with the blood of countless kills. Issa was smaller, younger, running on empty, but she was human, and humans had conquered Earth by being too stubborn to know when they were beaten. The matriarch lunged, claws extended, and Issa sidestepped, her knife finding the weak point under the arm joint. The matriarch roared, backhanding her across the clearing, hard enough to crack ribs. Issa rolled with it, came up spitting blood, and charged back in. They grappled, claws against armor, knife against carapace, neither giving ground. Issa headbutted the matriarch's mandibles, shattering them, then drove her knife up under the jaw into the brain. The matriarch shuddered once and went still. Issa pushed the corpse off, stood on shaking legs, and began the work of separating skull from spine. The extraction shuttle arrived 2 days later to find Cadet Issa Chen sitting on the plateau, her armor scorched and torn, her face a mask of dried blood and mud. At her feet sat a duffel bag, bulging and heavy, dark stains seeping through the fabric. The extraction team, hardened Marines who'd seen combat on a dozen worlds, approached cautiously. "Cadet Chen," we thought, "where's your unit?" She looked up at them with eyes that had seen too much, aged a decade in 8 days. She nudged the duffel bag with her boot, and something inside clattered bone against bone. "My unit's dead, but I wasn't alone. 20 hunters came for me." She unzipped the bag, revealing the nightmare inside. 20 skulls, each from a different species, some still dripping, some polished clean. "I'm returning them," their answer. The Marines stared. One crossed himself, another vomited. The senior sergeant, a veteran of the frontier wars, just nodded slowly and keyed his command. "We have Cadet Chen. Recommend immediate promotion and psych evil. And sir, you need to see this." They loaded her onto the shuttle, the duffel bag secured in a cargo net. As they broke atmosphere, Issa closed her eyes, listening to the Marines whisper behind her, not with fear, but with awe. The galaxy had sent 20 of its best to hunt a human for sport. She'd taught them the oldest lesson her species had to offer. Humans don't hunt for sport. They hunt to survive, and they never stop until the threat is dead.